Hey there, guys. Welcome back to our Assassin's Creed 2 dual commentary. And for this sequence, we will be exploring Venice. But during this initial beginning to this video, I actually took the time to go to Florence, San Gimignano, and also Forlì in order to get the Codex pages and to also get any side activities done. I mean, not all the side activities, though. It was just mainly that. And I also wanted to make sure I got all the glyphs as well in these areas before continuing on with this Venice sequence. So you'll see some minor deviations here and there. But I'm once again joined by Pcol.
It's me.
Yeah, and boy, do we have a lot to say with regards to Moon Knight because both Pcol and I have watched the series finale, and I mean the series finale. There is no season 2 for Moon Knight, as some people have claimed to believe, and we definitely feel that the series finale for Moon Knight is awful. Really, like it's honestly the worst Marvel series I've ever seen by far.
When
Just
we were
took
texting earlier, you literally said it was like comparable to Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Yeah, that's what I said as well. It was honestly just so rushed. Yeah, it really is rushed. And as Picard said to me earlier in my texts, he says that a lot of these MCU shows just keep consistently having great first episodes and then slowly get worse with each new episode, just like with Loki, for instance. It's so confusing, and I just feel like this show, Moon Knight, did a good job, or rather a bad job, in really letting the Disney tropes really show themselves. But I'll explain that later. But like just to talk about certain things. For instance, the whole idea of sealing Amit inside of Arthur in order to finally kill her. If this is such an easy process to actually seal a god or goddess inside of a mortal vessel, why even go through the process of sealing them inside an Ushabti? And also, why is it that when you kill the mortal, the god dies, but when you destroy the Ushabti, it doesn't kill the god? Like, why isn't there some kind of like reversal spell that saves the god from being destroyed by the Ushabti being destroyed? But no, it apparently works differently between a mortal and an Ushabti. That right there is stupid.
I also don't get how Mark and Layla suddenly knew the words of the fucking magic spell for no reason.
Yeah, that is odd. I mean,
That was
then again,
never explained.
yeah, but maybe for all we know, Taro Ray probably had some contribution to that, but that's never really indicated. And also, like, the whole part where Mark and Steven, they resurrect themselves in the sand, that right there is the most Disney scene of all of Moon Knight. Because, like, Taro Ray said that it's impossible to do so. Like, she said that's not how it works when she was discussing with Mark the whole idea of saving Steven. But no, it just turns out well for them in the end. Like, and somehow the sand zombies aren't there.
It's fucking plot armor is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And like, how on earth did Taro Ray take possession of dead bodies, like to just transmit her voice through them? When we never really seen that demonstrated anywhere else. And then her whole concept of actually like using Layla as her avatar, just the way it was presented with, like, how did she even leave like the Duat? Like, I thought Taro Ray couldn't leave. I didn't realize she could leave, but like, that's never explained
I don't even
at
know
all.
how to use Tower because Toweret's not the fucking goddess of death or whatever. She's a fucking goddess of like childbirth and fertility.
Yeah, that's odd. And then also like the part where Harrow, he goes into this checkpoint, this Arabic checkpoint, right? The soldiers are trying to stop them, but he bangs his staff on the ground, and he's able to suspend them in the air for their souls to be judged. And so, like, one of them actually survives, this and that. But then later on, when he's on top of the pyramid and he's judging all of Cairo, why do his followers need to touch them? Why do his followers need to touch all those civilians when he could just use the staff in order to do that? That's confusing.
And
It's like
they've touched other people before, but somehow they weren't able to judge people before. Why do they suddenly have to? Why can they suddenly judge people now?
That is, I mean, it's probably because they had like like Amit's power was transported onto them, but it's never portrayed like that. And then also like the whole scene where Mark is about to kill Amit and he just stops doing it. It's like, why does he have the crisis of conscience in that moment when he was about to kill Amit and Harrow?
And like when Khonshu was fighting Amit in the tomb, that's when Mark gets resurrected, but Khonshu just fucking senses that Mark is alive again and just fucking leaves.
Yeah, and then like there's like a brief pause from that point to where Khonshu meets up with Mark and Steven, and like what kind of choice in pacing is that? That's just silly writing.
How did Mark even like get out of the tomb so easily? Wasn't the whole tomb like a maze? Wouldn't we be able to not know his way out?
I mean, he probably did because like he retraced his steps back, but I mean, I don't know. And also like Moon Knight has like greater strength or something. But also like, how on earth did Layla and Harrow's followers see Khonshu when none of them are his avatar, and when Khonshu and Ahmed grew to a massive size for no one to actually see that? And then when Khonshu and Ahmed actually start fighting each other, they deal environmental damage, yet for some reason they can't deal damage to humans, apparently.
Somehow no one dies from this.
Yeah, that
Except
is
if
so...
their soul is getting eaten by Amit.
Yeah, and then also, when Layla masqueraded as one of Harrow's soldiers, why didn't the staff affect her when he bashed his staff into the ground in order to judge all those soldiers at the checkpoint? And also, like... Harrow couldn't hear Layla and also Tower Ray talking with each other? What? That is...
When I watched this episode, the very first thing I fucking hated was like in the first 5 minutes, Layla literally like attacks the guy in the fucking tomb, and Harrow clearly fucking hears it because he turned around and was like, "What the fuck was that?" But then
he doesn't investigate.
Ignores it and leaves.
Why? Like, that's so out of character for him. And then also, in the previous episode, when Tara Ray is explaining that a whole bunch of souls are being, like, judged too early, it seemed like it was a lot of souls. It's not portrayed properly in the next episode. It's only, like, a handful of soldiers. That's not the same number of souls that we see in the previous episode being judged by Harrow.
I feel like you meant to, like, think that, like, oh, all the souls that Mark and Steven saw in the duo were the souls that Amit was eating, but that happened after they already got resurrected from the duo anyway. So, like, it's contradicting, like, time.
Yeah, and then the reintroduction of Moon Knight. Like, we actually get to see Moon Knight again after 2 episodes. After 2 episodes, and with the lame action scenes in place that just feel... They just don't have any impact. They have no impact. It was so lame. It's a reintroduction of a character done very, very poorly as well.
And like when Harrow like kills the guys at the checkpoint, the souls fly up into the sky, but the Duat is underneath because it's Egyptian hell. So why do they go up instead of down?
And then why does Ahmed eat the souls when they're supposed to go to the Duat? That doesn't make any sense. And then how does Khonshu become
grow into a giant?
Yeah, and then how does Khonshu grow big as well? It's so stupid. It really is.
And like, how the fuck did Harrow climb to the top of the pyramid like so quickly? Like, wasn't he like in the middle of Cairo or something, and he just randomly got up to the top of the pyramid?
Yeah, and then how does he have superpowers all of a sudden? Like, he's able to resist, like, high falls. He's able to challenge Moon Knight. I mean, I get that he's an avatar for Ahmed, but it should have been properly, like, shown. Like, why doesn't he manifest a costume? Like with Moon Knight and also with Layla. And when Khonshu possessed Mark, when Tara Ray possessed Layla, they manifested costumes for them, but why wasn't it the same with Harrow? That doesn't make sense.
Because he's a fucking evil Disney villain, so he doesn't get the special stuff.
Yeah, and then those Egyptian gods, like the Ennead gods. Originally, they didn't suspect like Harrow whatsoever, and in fact, they were on his side. They were so blind to everything that was happening, even though they're supposed to be omniscient. But then, as soon as they're introduced, they're acting like they were always aware, or like they suspected him like from the start. That's so out of character. And then also they die. They die somehow.
Die off screen too. They don't even show it. But then in fucking episode 1, they're completely fine with showing Steven in the pile of dead bodies, completely covered in blood. And just like random censorship for no reason.
Yeah, and then this whole idea of the Egyptian gods, are we to assume those are real gods? And what, like Thor, Loki, and Odin, or like all the rest of the Asgardians, they aren't gods? Are they just a very advanced civilization? Like, it's just like the transition from the Isu in the older Assassin's Creed games to Assassin's Creed Odyssey, where in the older Assassin's Creed games, the Isu were not myths, they weren't gods, they didn't have magical powers, they were just a very advanced race that lived on Earth before humans. They created humans, they created technology like the pieces of Eden, and the temples we find are left left behind by their civilization. But then in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Ubisoft Quebec portrays the Isu as being literal gods. But that doesn't make any sense, that they're magical beings. And somehow, human culture and human religion actually portrays the Isu the way they are in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. That doesn't make any sense. The culture of human beings should not describe the Isu to a T. It makes no sense. It's just like right here. It makes no fucking sense.
The humans only saw Isu as gods because that's how they interpreted it as. They're not literal gods. Humans aren't seeing the Isu as gods because the Isu are actually gods. They're seeing the Isu as gods because that's how they interpret them as gods.
Yeah, but it's almost like they killed off the Ennead gods and just made Moon Knight feel so, like, disconnected to the rest of the series, just to play around with the whole idea of magical gods and then kill them off because they don't want to reintroduce these kind of characters into the rest of the MCU. That's what they did. It's like they did this just to give them an excuse to just play off this whole independent idea that serves no purpose to any future stories.
They're just having magic in Moon Knight just to have magic and not even explaining it. Like, at least in 4, they were like, oh, like, you call it magic, but where I come from, it's actually science. And then in Doctor Strange and shit, they explain magic and, like, how it works. But in Moon Knight, they just have magic just because they want to have magic.
Yeah, it's very poor writing. It's because of the change in writers. It has to be because of that. And then also, once Khonshu fakes releasing Steven and Mark, they then go to this whole scene where they're back in the asylum. Like, what's the whole point of Mark and Steven returning to the asylum to see fake Harrow?
Why are his feet bleeding for no reason? Like, I don't understand what the whole bleeding feet thing was about.
Just to play off the idea that he had glass in his shoes, because we see this in one of the episodes. But I thought it was...
Why do we need a reminder of that for no reason?
Or is it like, like in the previous episode, Mark believed that this version of Harrow actually shot him, and then the blood on his feet is meant to represent that, and that's what he believes. Like,
I don't understand it all.
I don't get it. I literally do not understand. It's so confusing. It really is. And then, like, what was the whole significance of Ahmed bonding to Alexander the Great? And she says that the last time she bonded to someone whose scales were perfectly balanced, she was in prison for 2,000 years. But we never see what happened between her and Alexander the Great to cause her to be imprisoned within that Ushabti.
They literally just say, oh, Ahmed was betrayed by her former avatar, but they don't explain why or how, and they just include Alexander the Great in the show just because they wanted a cheap, easy way to have fucking cheap ancient Egyptian history in it.
And it was definitely for that purpose, because I completely forgot that Alexander the Great was in the previous episode. And also, like, how exactly do Ahmed's powers work? What is she actually seeing when she's actually inspecting the scales on human beings? Is she actually seeing in the future? Is she just making assumptions of her own? Like, is she just seeing a bit of evil that might potentially manifest or something? Like, how does this make any sense?
That's why I don't like the whole fucking thing. It's like, oh, you're judging people based on, like, their evil actions. But, like, evil is such a broad, subjective concept that you can't judge a person based on evil.
Yeah, and then if you think of the whole idea that she's likely judging these individuals for the smallest shred of evil within them, if that is the case, why did Alexander the Great betray her? And I mean, like, it feels like this should have been the perfect way to set up the whole, like, moral dilemma between Khonshu and Amit's, like, views on how they should punish evil. Like, this could have been a very interesting moral dilemma to bring into the mix, just like with the whole idea of the Assassins versus the Templars. The moral beliefs between the Assassins and the Templars and their beliefs on how best to shape humanity is one of the most fascinating forms of morality I have ever seen told in a story. But they just completely ignored it in the future games. But they should have done the same thing here with Moon Knight. It could have been so interesting. And, like, in the second episode of Moon Knight, we see Steven enter Harrow's camp, and Harrow is explaining how Ahmed does her duties, and he voices some points of contention, like some points of controversy related to that whole idea. But, like, why introduce it if you're not going to follow up on it? And then also with Khonshu throughout the whole series has been portrayed as just this asshole guy, but now he's, like, suddenly serious, this and that, and, like, then he has humorous moments. Like, the tonal shifts in this final episode of of Moon Knight were severe. I really felt like they were severe, and it was just a trope of Disney. I really felt like it's like they were trying to balance a serious tone with the Disney tone. That's what it felt like.
Yeah. Like, that's why MCU, like, a lot of people after Endgame just left the MCU because, like, they got what they wanted out of the MCU. And, like, after Disney took control of Marvel, like, everything just went family friendly and, like, they didn't allow, like, all this stuff that, like, the older movies did.
Yeah, but I feel like they accomplished this with Falcon and Winter Soldier. Falcon and Winter Soldier, I rewatched it again, and it's really good. Like, there is no sort of like change in tonal shifts that actually feels bad. Nothing feels rushed. And like the final episode at the end, when Sam is actually like giving that speech, people were wondering why exactly did Captain America give Sam the shield and not Bucky? Because Bucky would never have done this kind of speech moment that Sam displayed when he was talking about Carly Morgenthau and actually like delaying the plans of the Global Repatriation Council to actually like displace a whole bunch of people again. And the deep thoughts he expressed that you just don't hear in a lot of media or even in our world today. It was such a nice payoff, and in a universe where Stanley is dead, obviously, because like Stanley passed away, it felt like it was upholding the legacy of Stanley purposely, because like Stanley has talked about these kind of moral dilemmas before. Like even Spider-Man No Way Home did this perfectly as well. Like there are definitely good moments, but Moon Knight is not a great example of a series done right and actually serving as proper payoff to ideas that they're establishing, because they just completely ignored the things that they set up in the previous episodes and just rushed these things out the door just to be done with the series.
They literally contradict everything they set up in the previous episodes, but also in this own episode itself.
Yeah, it's so dumb. It really is. And going back to the whole moral dilemma argument between Khonshu and Amit, I'm gonna stand by. That should have been something that we should have explored throughout all of the episodes. Not like featuring a bunch of like dumb comedic moments involving like Steven doing silly things or just hearing like dumb characters. And like the whole character of Layla as well. I did not like Layla's character. Layla's character was so annoying and just felt so cliched. And I didn't feel like any part of her character was fleshed out in a way that was actually intriguing. She felt almost about as throwaway as Cassandra, in my opinion. And like she did have her moments, but for the most part, she was not a well done character. Like we have to waste time with all
Layla
that.
was just like basically just like a female Steven, but done worse.
Yeah, and they have to waste time with all these pointless things, and then this whole cheesy dialogue as well. With like, remember when Layla saves that person from being killed by Harrow's staff in the final episode, and she's like, "Are you an Egyptian hero?" And she's like, "Yes." Like, why do you have to be so on the nose about that?
Why do you need to include that? Like, you don't need to include that random conversation. You can just have Layla save the person and then just have the person run away again.
It should speak for itself. You shouldn't have to be so like pants on the head stupid, or just have to be so on the nose with the idea that, oh, we have an Egyptian hero in the series now. Let's make this like something everyone should know about. It should speak for itself. It's like what you do nowadays with introducing gay characters and lesbian characters. Like they have to be so on the nose about the whole idea of these characters being gay or lesbian when it should speak for itself.
You don't. If you want diversity in something, you don't need to like shove it in our face. You can just have the characters exist. You don't need to have a character be like, "Oh, you an Egyptian superhero? Are you gay?" You don't need to have that. You can just have them exist as like a gay or Egyptian or whatever person. You don't need to shove it in our face and literally have the characters in the show or movie or whatever it is straight up tell you what they are.
Yeah, because you ruined the message that you're trying to send with these kind of heroes. Like, you're focused more so on the idea of, oh, they probably put in these heroes just to add some diversity, rather than they decided to include these characters, these kind of heroes, because they're awesome. But no, like, you're sending the wrong message by having to be so on the nose with your messaging like that.
You're just putting in diversity for the sake of having diversity and not actually making it like a special thing and like actually trying to make a message about it.
Yeah, like, it's so fucking stupid. It's almost like with the way Ubisoft has to be so on the nose about, oh, look at this, we actually introduced a female protagonist, you should be happy about this, when we shouldn't be thinking anything of that.
Yeah.
Like, it's so fucking stupid. I've never seen anything as grotesquely stupid in all of my life when it has come to a form of media or some kind of TV episode. It's so fucking atrocious. I've never seen anything like this before. I really haven't.
It reminds me of the thing that happened recently. Like, I know you don't follow speedrunning and stuff, but there's a thing that happened recently where, like, the games list for the next main GDQ event came out, and people got kind of pissed because, like, most of the runners that got accepted were male, and, like, 13% or whatever of them were female, and people were so pissed. Like, and, like, a thing came out where, like, one of the persons on the games committee was like, we don't choose people, like, based on who they are. We choose based on the fastest time. But, like, that completely erases people who might actually be, like, good at their game or, like, have a good personality but not have the fastest time. But if you're just choosing the fastest time, then you're completely, like, not even giving people a chance to, like, show themselves on stream or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's just this is exactly what this kind of show brings to mind. This show did so much wrong. It's unbelievable that this show could be this much of a failure. It is an abject failure in media. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, and like I told you, like, the first 2 episodes are great, but then they end up with this fucking crap.
Yeah, it's just I even expected this show to be better because Loki was of a similar stance as well, where episode 3 of Loki was atrocious, but Loki like improved a bit more, and you know, like the build up towards season 2 was interesting, but I mean, Moon Knight didn't improve whatsoever. It got worse. It's the same case with Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Everyone online has been like praising Oscar Isaac and like saying he's been like really good, and he has, but like the writing for the show is just so fucking stupid, and I don't get it.
What is the overall like opinion on episode 6, dude? Like, have you witnessed that? Have you actually looked up the overall opinion of episode 6?
I haven't seen too much people talk about episode 6 yet, but I've seen a lot of people online saying that Oscar Isaac has been doing like a really good job with the show and like portraying Mark and Steven correctly and like doing good like DID representation.
Nah, I don't agree with that because episode 3 when he was chasing those mercenaries and just doing all these really cheesy one-liners, this and that. Like, is that really like your idea of a good portrayal of a character when he has to be that cringe with his dialogue?
I feel like I like Oscar Isaac better as Steven than I like him as Mark.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say Steven was a more interesting character than Mark. Mark was just a cliched mercenary, but Steven at least had some personality to him. And like the
I've
things.
also seen that like people don't like Oscar Isaac's fake British accent, even though it's not even that bad.
Yeah, it's not that bad at all. Ezio Auditore is voiced by Roger Craig Smith. Roger Craig Smith worked very hard to create this compelling Italian accent, but even then, there are those moments with his character where you can hear his American accent. Because it's not perfect, but it's still pretty good as an Italian accent.
Yeah. And like, there's a reason why whenever people were like in media trying to do like different voices or actors, they literally have like voice trainers and shit, and like different language experts.
Yeah, it makes no sense, like how people can just be so put off by Oscar Isaac's British voice. Like, it doesn't make any sense at all. I never thought of it like that at all. I never thought I could feel so betrayed by a series. I never thought the MCU could ever devolve like this. This is not evolution, this is de-evolution and poor quality.
This is why a lot of people left after Endgame, because they got what they wanted out of Endgame, and like now everything after Endgame is like not that good.
No, Falcon and Winter Soldier was amazing.
I've been hearing people say that like Multiverse of Madness, the new Doctor Strange movie, is like, it shouldn't be a Doctor Strange movie, it should be a fucking Scarlet Witch movie, because it's more about her than Doctor Strange.
Is it really? Would you agree with that?
What I've heard, because people went to go see it early on like a new like LA like premiere or whatever.
Let's not talk about Moon Knight anymore. Let's actually talk about the Doctor Strange movie. Because, the Doctor Strange movie, I'm just wondering what they're going to do with it. Because, like, obviously they're playing around with this whole idea of the multiverse, this and that. And, like, there's going to be a lot of dimensions that Strange will be going to. Like, at least that's in theory. I mean, I'm not too sure exactly, why Strange is doing what he's doing. But I just hope that Sam Raimi, I mean, I don't like Sam Raimi as a director because I hate the Tobey Maguire trilogy. It's so cringe in its dialogue, and the villains aren't even that good. Like they fixed Green Goblin's William Dafoe character so much in Spider-Man No Way Home because I did not like his portrayal in the first Spider-Man movie, and then Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2, he was a poorly done villain because not only did they try to set up this whole like scary scene with him actually like, killing all those doctors, but then it's used to set up the foundation for a cheesy villain just pulling off like really stupid one-liners and just robbing banks and then kidnapping Mary Jane. He's like Butterfingers and the like. And then Spider-Man 3 was regarded by many as being atrocious. So Sam Raimi just doesn't have a good track record for making good movies. And that's why I'm just hesitant with Doctor Strange. And I just feel like because they're juggling the whole idea of the multiverse, and the multiverse is kind of a crazy thing, I feel like there's going to be a lack of direction and a lack of focus because of that. You know what I mean, Pcol? Because like Assassin's Creed Odyssey introduced like so many like really stupid elements and making the Isu like magical, this and that, and then they ruined Darius like crazy, and they ruined the lore like crazy because they had no sense of direction what they were trying to do with Odyssey at all, and that's why Assassin's Creed Odyssey is the worst Assassin's Creed game ever. But I just feel like Doctor Strange is going to be the same thing as well, you know?
Like, I don't really, like, entirely understand, like, the reason why they're trying to go for the multiverse. Like, is it just because of the spell from No Way Home? Is it because of, like, other shit that's happened? I don't fucking know.
Yeah, but like, I mean, I have some theories as to what they might do with Doctor Strange, because like the whole idea of the multiverse, this was already done in What If. Like we saw those universes. You've watched the trailers for Doctor Strange, right?
Yeah.
Like, do you remember the moment in the trailer where he meets his evil self? He meets evil Doctor Strange. Is that the same evil Doctor Strange from What If? Because the last time we saw him, he was watching over Ultron and Killmonger when they were fighting for control of the Infinity Stones.
I have no idea. I think it was, like, meant to be, or, like, a reference to him. I feel like in the comics there's also, like, multiple evil Doctor Stranges, so, like, it could just be
I
one of
suppose.
those.
Yeah, that could be the case, but maybe like they're bringing in elements of What If into Doctor Strange, or even like, you know, remember how at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home, all those villains are coming into the reality during the final encounter with Spider-Man's villains?
I mean, we know that Captain Carter is gonna be in it because she was, like, in one of the trailers for, like,
Yeah.
one shot, and I'm pretty sure that's, like, the same Captain Carter that was in the What If show.
Yeah, and then also, like, remember the events of Loki? Remember how he meets Kang the Conqueror, and then, like, the barriers between realities shatter? Like, what was the reason for that again? Why did the barriers between realities shatter?
I need to watch Loki again, I don't fucking remember.
Yeah, but like Kang the Conqueror said that he isolated a certain portion of the time stream to become like the sacred timeline, right? Because of the other Kang the Conquerors. But it's clear that something is about to happen with regards to that. Kang the Conqueror is going to be like a big problem. Like it just seems like the barriers between dimensions are collapsing. Like between time streams is collapsing. Will that play a role in Doctor Strange?
He's already been confirmed to be the main villain in the next Ant-Man movie.
In the next Ant-Man movie?
Yeah, that's been confirmed for like years at this point.
Oh, okay. But so I guess he's not in Doctor Strange then. So we can immediately dismiss that whole theory that Kang the Conqueror might appear in some capacity in Doctor Strange. But yeah, that's just how I feel about Doctor Strange at the moment. I mean, I did like the first Doctor Strange. The first Doctor Strange was a really cool idea, and you know, like the whole idea of the Ancient One actually like drawing from the Dark Dimension. I mean, and then the way Doctor Strange deals with Dormammu was pretty cool. But yeah, like what will they do? I wonder, and will they bring in the Timekeepers as well? Like, will the Timekeepers be an antagonist or or a protagonist in Doctor Strange?
Well, I don't think the Timekeepers are going to be in it because they were already confirmed to be fake in Loki, and like Doctor Strange is already doing the Illuminati stuff. So if they bring in the Timekeepers on top of the Illuminati, then I feel like this is just going to be too much.
Probably. Like, I just hope they're not going to juggle too many ideas together with Doctor Strange, because then the direction of the movie will be lost for sure.
There's so much like weird shit going on with it.
Yeah.
But I guess that's what happens when you do with multiverse shit.
But Doctor Strange releases in May 8th, correct?
Literally tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow, okay. So yeah, I'm going to definitely see it, for sure. If Spider-Man No Way Home was good, then I'm hoping that Doctor Strange will be good, but it's Sam Raimi directing it, and like I just feel like the tonal shifts that are expressed to such a heavy degree with his original Spider-Man trilogy are so like pans on the head, in your face, and or like on the nose, like just they're that noticeable that I just hope it doesn't bleed into Doctor Strange's direction. Like and then like the tonal shifts in Moon Knight especially were incredibly severe, but it wasn't Sam Raimi directing it, so I wonder what he's gonna do with that. I just hope it's not bad.
I still haven't even like seen the original like Spider-Man trilogy or even like the Andrew Garfield movies because I've heard they're like bad nowadays.
I mean, yeah, but then you hear like these nostalgic sort who are saying that the Sam Raimi trilogy is good, and like I actually prefer the Amazing Spider-Man universe more so than the Tobey Maguire universe, and I actually felt like a lot more connected to Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man than with Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man in the universe, and also in Spider-Man No Way Home. But like, it's always going to be subjective like that. You know. That's just my
I mean,
personal
people
opinion
are
of
always
it.
gonna be blinded by nostalgia for old things.
And also, you saw the post-credit scene in episode 6, right?
Yeah.
For yeah, so Jake Lockley is there. Like we know he's always been there. We know that he's shown himself a couple of times, but he's Spanish now, and he kills
I don't get why they waited so long to introduce him.
yeah, and it's not like he'll be serving as some kind of payoff in the end, because like they're not continuing Moon Knight. They said there's only 6 episodes, but like that's just a habit with a lot of these Marvel movies and shows. They leave a lot of these cliffhangers that I feel won't go anywhere. Like, do you remember the cliffhanger in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 where that Empress, she is trying to make some kind of like being that hunts down the Guardians of the Galaxy or something, and I'm not sure what that was all about.
Oh,
Like,
fucking Adam Warlock.
yeah, like what was the like they're
I feel like they're trying to do that now because fucking James Gunn is trying to introduce him in the third one.
in Thor and Love and War, the Guardians of the Galaxy are returning in the movie,
Well, because he left with them to go to space in Endgame.
and maybe they'll touch upon that, like the cliffhanger established in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
There's also the other post-credit scene in that movie because for some reason that movie had 4 of them for some reason. But there's the other one with like the other like alien robot people that were like trying to form another team. And it's like, why? Who are any of these people?
Really, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 had 4 post-credit scene?
Apparently.
I'll have to rewatch that movie again. But I mean, I didn't like
Also, one of the people in that like weird like alien space team in that post-credit scene was played by Michelle Yeoh, but then they brought her back as a completely different character in Shang-Chi.
who'd she play as in Shang-Chi?
The person who does like the airbending that teaches Shang-Chi how to use the wind stuff.
Oh, okay. I can't remember much from Shang-Chi. I mean, even though it was a decent movie, not much to really remember from that movie.
Because Shang-Chi went from like a good like family like movie, because they made a whole movie about like family dynamics and shit, and then it just turned into a fucking monster movie for no reason.
Yeah, you know what? That was exactly the case with Moon Knight Episode 6 with the whole like monster mash between Khonshu and also Ahmed.
They literally just turned Ahmed into Godzilla.
It sucks too because I kind of liked Ahmed. I mean, she didn't seem like a truly evil villain. Like there is some level of sincerity in her words and the like, and with her beliefs on how to punish evil. But they just did nothing with her, and it's like, oh, you're supposed to assume she's just a truly evil villain, this and that. Like it's like
made Ahmed evil because they needed a villain, and it just needed to tell you that someone is evil, and they needed to have a hero and a villain, and they needed to say that someone is evil just so they could have someone be evil.
Yeah, it's just like with Connor Kenway in Assassin's Creed 3, how he never questioned the Templars or their beliefs, and he just straight up kills Templars because they're Templars. And it's the same case here. Like, even though Amit does portray as a character that has a bit of depth to her, and she doesn't seem like a truly evil villain, we're just not supposed to question that, and we're supposed to take the side of Khonshu, because, like, they want us to say, oh, he's actually the hero, this and that. You know?
That's why, like, you can't just have a villain be like, oh, I'm gonna judge people for doing evil, because evil is such a broad fucking subjective concept.
Yeah,
Like,
I know,
people
and
can do evil things for a good reason. Like, if you need to steal food to feed your family, then that's like doing an evil thing for a good reason.
yeah, not to mention, like, you know the amount of grief that Mark had when he accidentally killed, like, Randall? And like he changed. I mean, like, and then like Stephen Grant manifested himself, and like there was stuff like that. I mean, he was a great example of that kind of change. But of course, like, he was still going along with Khonshu and just killing a lot of people, this and that. So I guess there's an argument to be made about that.
And it can go the other way, where people can be good and then turn evil. Like if Amit
Yeah.
was around during like when Mark's mom abused him, would like Amit judge his mom before she even started abusing him?
Wait, say that again.
Mark's mom was like a good loving mom before she abused Mark. So if Amit was around during that time, would she judge Mark's mom like as an evil person before she even started the abuse?
Oh yeah, that I did not consider that. But then that really does beg the question: if Amit has the ability to read the time streams, like she has like a similar sense to the Isu in Assassin's Creed with the whole sixth sense and just reading the time streams, this and that, because she'd have to predict that his mom would actually like turn into an abuser.
It's literally never explained how Amit judges people. Like, can she see through time? Does she know what's gonna happen?
Yeah, it is a little confusing in that regard. It really is. But like I was gonna mention that like you mentioned before, Pcol, like the even when you're on the path of good, you can still do evil. Like remember the assassins from Assassin's Creed Rogue? How they were like desecrating the Isu sites and triggering all these earthquakes, and just acting like they were brain
The
dead.
assassins in Rogue are literally just Templars skinned as assassins.
Yeah, it's just like that. And like they could have done something interesting with that in Assassin's Creed Rogue, but it's just a literal like change in the names. The Templars are assassins, and the assassins are Templars. So it's not you're not playing as a Templar, you're playing as an assassin. And Haytham is out of character, and the assassins literally have gangs in the cities that are flying the assassin flag everywhere. I get what they were trying to go for, but when it's that superficial in its writing, that is atrocious. That really is. But we don't have much time to talk about with regards to this tangent, and we've spent the entirety of this video just talking about Moon Knight, just talking about the MCU, and we have almost 2 minutes left in this video, and there's not much to really talk about here.
We didn't even touch on yet.
Yeah. Like, there's definitely a lot we need to touch on when it comes to the future of Marvel, and definitely with Doctor Strange, because, of course, by the time we do the next part for Assassin's Creed 2 or for Brotherhood, we'll probably have already watched Doctor Strange, so that'll be interesting to talk about when we get the chance.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really all we have to say about Moon Knight. Moon Knight is just a throwaway series with all these ideas, but the execution is so flawed because it presents with so much confusion as to what they were trying to go for with tone and with mentalities and the amount of missed opportunity they had to really flesh out the story of Moon Knight. It's bad.
And, like, I'm pretty sure the Moon Knight characters, like, his powers are supposed to be like different depending on the phase of the moon, because that's how Khonshu's power works in the comics. But then, like, in the show, like, his powers don't change at all, even though it takes place over multiple days, so the phases of the moon should be changing, but like his powers don't get stronger or weaker.
Yeah. And I also question why Khonshu's not framed after an animal. Like Tarouet is framed after a hippo, Ahmed is framed after a crocodile, but Khonshu's different.
I mean,
Wonder
he literally has the entire ass bird head, but he's like a skeleton for some reason.
Maybe that's how he is in the actual real life. I don't know. It's
No.
probably not worth thinking about.
In real life, Khonshu has like actual like skin and shit.
Oh, he does? Okay. So that's strange. But yeah, so this is pretty much the end of this sequence. So yeah, not much to really talk about with regards to Assassin's Creed. I mean, we did diverge onto some Assassin's Creed tangents to relate to the MCU, but nothing that directly talks about what we were doing in
And you
in
completely
this
did
sequence.
this mission entirely different than how I do it.
Really, how do you normally do it?
I go around the back, cause you went around the front. I go around the back, and there's like a room you can go through, and then wait on top of a beam, and then you just wait until like he walks under you and like says like, "Is the boat ready?" You wait for him to say that line, and then you just air assassinate him.
Oh, now that you mention it, I think I do remember you telling me about that.
That's how I do it every single time.
Yeah. But this is the end of this video. Stay tuned for the future videos. Thank you all for watching, and you take care now.
Hell yeah.